Hey everyone, welcome to the Finding Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Adam Vohra, and I'm so grateful to have you here. This podcast is all about exploring the journeys of incredible individuals, people who have faced adversity, found their purpose, and are now making an impact in their communities. But it's also about my journey. Over the years, I've faced my own obstacles, moments of doubt, and struggles with identity. Through it all, I've found my purpose in giving back, creating a space where people can detach from the negative emotions and stigmas they may associate with their own stories, just like I did with mine. Here, we have real conversations about growth, resilience, and transformation. Whether you're searching for direction, striving for personal development, or simply looking for a place to feel seen and understood, this is for you. So if these conversations resonate with you, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with us on social media. Now let's dive into today's episode. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Finding Purpose podcast. My name is Adam, and I am your host. Before we dive in, I want to thank you for tuning in to last week's powerful episode with Tanya Mimi. Her story of resilience and reinvention truly left an impact. If you haven't checked it out yet, be sure to go back, give it a listen, and of course, don't forget to subscribe, review, and share to help us grow this incredible community. Now, today's guest is someone who embodies purpose with polish. Mar Jennings is an Emmy-nominated TV personality, a best-selling author, and the creator, producer, and host of the lifestyle series Life on Mars, now entering its 5th season. Known nationally as America's top lifestyle expert, Mar has built a brand rooted in beauty, intention, and transformation, whether it's curating a home, designing a life, or inspiring others to rise above their past. Raised in a household marked by adversity, Mark turned his pain into power, using his platform to remind us that our past doesn't define us, but our purpose can. I can't wait for you to hear this one. Let's dive in. Here's Mar Jennings.
Here's Mar Jennings. Hey, how are you?
Welcome. Thank you so much for
it's
reaching
great to
out.
be here.
I'm excited to have you. You know, just the energy we just had before we even started. I love it.
Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, Adam. And I think it's important for us to really underscore the importance of being survivors and really finding our mission and digging deep. And as you mentioned, how we come into this world doesn't define how we build ourselves to be who we want to be, right? That person.
Absolutely. And, that's a nice segue. I really want to just kind of jump in to Mar Jennings, the early days.
The untold story, the early days.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I grew up with 2 older brothers. I'm the youngest of 3, of course. And my dad was an alcoholic. He was not the most friendliest alcoholic you could have in a household. My mom was ill. She had bone cancer and ultimately lost her leg. I became her caretaker very early on. But what I learned is that a lot of the experiences I had early in my life helped define and really identify what I want out of life and what I won't tolerate, right? So I'm very sensitive to the fact of who I was, but I'm also very empowered because who I was as a child and being in that environment and who I aspired to be was really something that had to come from within myself. And I think I had to go through this journey to get here.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And obviously, knowing now like the role that your father and both jumping into that caretaking role with your mother had to left a lasting impact on you. It's funny being someone who lives in recovery now. Mm-hmm. I also meet a lot of folks who are adult children of alcoholics and who they themselves fell into alcoholism. Some people say it's genetic, some people say it's environmental. And I
think it's a little both.
Absolutely. And I had a guest on my podcast earlier. Her name's Dr. Tion Dayton, and she specializes
in that research regarding adult children of alcoholics. And what work did you have to do to really just understand the impact that it might have had on you?
Well, it took a while to realize that it wasn't about me,
Mm.
right? I was the victim, and it wasn't anything that I was doing. It was just my mere being there, right? When you're an alcoholic, you kind of lash out on the people that are around you, right? And since then, my dad, went through recovery and really successfully rebuilt himself, not being an alcoholic, and flourished. However, the damage was done. And I think for me, being in that environment, the best way that I could handle it was to pack it, right? Feelings are like treasures, so bury them, right? So what I did is I packed mine up, put it in a nice sealed trunk. And when I want to open that trunk, I open it. But when I want to close it, I close it, and it's very tight. And I think that's crucial because I don't let my experiences of being younger really just open up and spill out. Oh, poor me. Oh, it happened. No, I really have to call upon it for it to really be relevant to discuss it. And then I put it back. And I think that is a survivor mode in me that allows me to say, that was then. He did the best he could. It wasn't what I would do.
Yeah.
It wasn't what I would respect. But nevertheless, everyone's here for a reason. And now looking forward and seeing myself as a grown man, I'm always the person driving somebody home, taking care of someone, knowing when to have them stop. I'm always that person in control of a scenario. I'm never out of control. And I think it's because I know what the opposite is that I don't allow myself to ever be in that situation. So I have to thank him for that.
Yeah, no, totally. And understanding that it's instilled into you that caretaker mentality when it comes to you seeing people close to you who might be making similar decisions. I mean,
Yes, and people do. And I'm glad I'm there to take care of them and to make sure that they get home okay, make sure that that nothing happens to them.
Do you attribute that more to your dad or the role that you were thrust into with your mother?
Oh, that's a two-parter. I think as an adult right now, I look at that as I don't ever want to be in a position where I don't have control. I can't drive a car. So I'm very aware of my environment. I'm very aware of what I need to do. And taking care of my mom and being responsible a lot of time to do a lot of things for her gave me that healthcare validation and skill set of compassion, and also to give people dignity. So I'm a widower, and of course, I had to call upon a lot of those skills. And when I did, the comment was, how do you know how to do this? How do you just jump in and you don't even think about it? I could empty a bedpan without one spill. I'm good at it. And I'm it's a funny thing, but I take pride in the fact that I was able to do that and learn the skill sets to do it correctly. And I'm the best advocate when someone I love has to go somewhere or be in a hospital. I am the one making sure this is taken care of, that's taken care of. And it's something that I hold very dear, that there was a reason why I had to take care of my mom, because I had to learn all those skills so I could call upon it later in life. And it's one of the best things in my life that I can look back upon, that I'm so glad I was able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a unique upbringing. How did it, now looking back, do you look at your childhood, your adolescence, your teenage years, and how it impacted your approach to relationships, or even the amount of time you had to be able to spend just being a teenager?
Right. Well, I was very fortunate because I was in the world of figure skating as a competitive figure skater. So I got to leave the environment. That was like very strategic for my mom to get me out of the environment. And as a reward of taking care of her, she would take care of me. So that kind of allowed me to experience other families and other skating rinks and other states, and to travel and to experience the fact that we live in a bubble here in Connecticut, and to see how other people live really gave me the blessings of what I do want and what I don't want, right? So I grew up quickly. I had to.
Yeah.
Right? So I missed out on a lot, but I don't regret that at all. I think that was a crucial part of my character and who I am today.
It's funny because we just were talking about your figure skating career.
Yes.
And one thing that you said was it was such a blessing because it equipped you with so many different tools that you have applied in other avenues and other career paths.
Absolutely.
So I really want to dive into that.
All right, so let's take a deep dive, because skating is really one of those things that you just don't go out and do it, right? So I started very young. I think I was about 3 years old, and I just continued to do it. Of course, my dad wanted nothing to do with it. So my mom was, I'll take care of it. And it wasn't until later in life that he finally embraced it, because I was coming out in the news and I was getting a lot of attention and I was doing very well, that he started boasting the fact that I was doing this. But the skating, in order to set goals, you have to set mini goals. And so in order to get to your double axel, you have to do your axel. In order to get to your triple axel, you have to get to your double axel. So that discipline of setting those goals, it's like going up a ladder. You have to take one step at a time to really achieve your ultimate goal. And I've been blessed by really having a passport to the world. And skating, no matter where I went, it was always a topic of conversation. And I remembered very early in my career when I was getting jobs, I would always put the bottom of my resume, regional and sectional figure skating champion, right? And if they asked me about it, I knew I had the job. If they said nothing, I said, this is not for me. And because it was always a conversation that people could admire in reference to being in the world and giving the behind the scenes aspect of the sport. I did a lot of commentary as well, and I really felt that it was important not only to skate, but to also educate myself. So I would have been a better skater if all I did was skate, but I think I was a better person by skating, going to school, and working.
You know, I have a lot of friends who are athletes that are on team sports, and I really want to dig into like how it's an individual sport.
It is.
And when you're competitive in an individual sport, I feel like you need to adopt a very different mentality, because at the end of the day, you could have the great coaching, you could have a good team around, you could have the other support, but it's you who has to go out there.
That's
it's
correct.
You who has to perform, and only you. You can't blame it on the quarterback. You can't blame it on the lineman. You can't blame it on a receiver dropping a pass. So how does that mentality, how are you so easily able to do that? Like, just grasp that mentality?
Well, I learned very early on that I can't do it alone, and you realize that you have to really have a big reach, because to be a better me requires great producers, great team members, a great assistant. The brand has to survive by so many people really participating and elevating it, right? I am the brand ambassador, but it's really my team that builds and helps me be the best I could possibly be. As that skater and being out there, I never once took it for granted that the choreographer, the person who outfitted me, all the skating rinks that I was at that supported me, the fans that I had, that was all part of what I was carrying, and that was all part of the athlete that was now called upon. It didn't matter if you did that triple in warm-up, but now you have to do it now in front of everybody. which actually led me to really great opportunities because as an athlete and requiring your body to get up and do this in front of a huge audience, when you step back and say, I've done that, you want me to stand in front of 50,000 people and talk? That's easy.
Yeah.
As long as I don't have to do another triple or quad, I'm good with that. That's an easy process. But kind of to circle back, it really was never just about me being out on that ice and okay, all that pressure is on me. Yes, it was on me, but I also knew I was carrying a very deep component of a strong team that got me to that point.
I love that. And obviously also ingrained that competitive nature within you.
Oh, I'm a competitor, right?
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
I mean, I read up on you. You're also a killer, too. So,
I'm a Taurus.
I love it. I'm a Taurus, too.
Taurus, absolutely. I am driven. We make great bankers. I was in banking for 18 years. We really like things a certain way. We have high expectations, but we're also not afraid to actually do it ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. And I always said, no matter what job I had or what career I was in, don't tell me, show me. I was always better if you showed me. And so I applied the same discipline to everything that I do. I'm like, I'm not going to ask you to do anything that I'm not doing myself. Right. And you find that that's a true testament of who you really are. Because it's very easy to say, oh, can you do that? And can you do that? And can you do that? Well, what are you going to do? Right?
Yeah.
No. I'm the leader. I have to lead by example. And that comes from the discipline of being an athlete. And that comes from the discipline of like, I want to do it. I need to know how to do it so I can do it.
Well, I love also that your athletic experience, also it's like the precision of the sport.
Oh.
And all of that just translated into your later careers. And, how long did you skate for and what doors opened after that?
Well, it's interesting because I retired in 1994. And at the time, I was working other jobs. I was in advertising. I was going to go to law school, but I did not. And I decided that, okay, I was going to I felt, and this is what I have been told over and over again, is I played it safe because I was a creative guy, clearly, figure skater, and now I felt I had something to prove. Well, I'm smart too. Let me show you how smart I am. So I got into banking, and I had 6 interviews over 5 months. And the last interview, I remember to this day, I'm sitting on a chair, and the senior or vice president or president, first thing he said to me, you have no banking experience. And I felt like saying, I went through all these interviews and finally someone's on to me. They caught on. Oh no. Wow. And I felt like saying something, but I did not. I said, no, but what I have is this. I'm from the community. I live and breathe my market share. I'm driven. I'm a salesperson. I know I can do a great job. So that interview was very, very short. And I remember I got the call from HR and they said, you didn't do so well with Ken. Ken, wherever you are. You didn't do so well with Ken. And I'm like, okay, thank you very much. I had a great time. It was fun. I'm okay. No problem. No. We're gonna take a chance on you. You're the first non-NBA banker we're hiring, and we're gonna take a chance on you. Well, it turned out that I was the number 1 banker in Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania for like 3 years in a row. And they started bringing people to see what is it about Mar that's so different. And what they realized was they hired someone from their market share. They hired someone that was passionate, and they hired someone that was goal-oriented. We can teach him the banking. We can't teach him to have those qualities. And so thank you, Ken, because I always look to hire people that are passionate, driven, have the skill set, and I could teach them the industry, but I can't teach you to be the best that you could be when it comes to how to talk to people, how to sell, how to put yourself together. You either have that or you don't.
Well, you also led that story with that you had something to prove.
Yes. Yes, I really felt that I wanted to prove something. I ended up being in banking for 18 years. So I was with Citibank, I was with JP Morgan Chase, and then I went to Hudson United Bank that turned into TD Bank North. So I went from a first level officer to a senior vice president. And Ruth Turkington, wherever you are, she's from New Jersey, she gave me my senior vice president position, I remember, at the very end there. And then I left banking. I became a widower in 2005 in April 2nd. And I left banking at the end of the month because I was told that I played it safe. I should tap into what my true gifts are, and you should believe in yourself. So I walked away from the world, and that was great timing because 2008 was the collapse of the banking world. It was just horrible time. But I was out of it already. So I took all that experience and then applied it to my company, and I haven't looked back.
I want to talk a little bit about, the end of your banking career and becoming a widower, because that's when you started your brand.
Correct.
And I could only imagine that was a moment of self-reflection and a moment of what's next and a moment of a very transitional period for you. Can you share a little bit about what you went through and how it shaped your new path?
Well, as I mentioned, I was a caretaker and I was in denial. And I think the best way to take care of someone is to, for me anyway, was to not ever expect the worst. Oh, you're going to be fine. Oh, yeah, I don't feel so well either. It must have been something when we ate. Just kind of dismissing it. So when it finally happened, it happened, right? And I just kept hearing in my head over and over again, you need to really get out of that bank and do something that is more bullseye to your heart. And so I heard that loud and clear, so I took the leap of faith to do it. It was tough to walk away from a big job. It was tough to walk away from, 5 weeks vacation, the position, all of it, right? Yeah. 200 employees, running the entire state of Connecticut. It was a big role. But I think banking was changing at that time. They wanted our tellers to start selling. There was a bank on every corner, and it was very, very competitive. And I'm all about finding what you do best and letting you do that, right? So I think the timing was right. So it was a leap of faith. I did it. I did not look back. I did a little consulting here and there, but I did not want to get into another banking job. And I just focused on building a brand. And what does that look like? Writing a book. I wrote my first book, and then I wrote my second book. Those books led to some network opportunities from working for all the networks. I started doing, I did QVC. I mean, I've worked for every network in the lifestyle arena, creating content. And one thing that kept me coming back over and over again, whether I was a correspondent or I was on assignment, was the fact that I had the discipline of I was on time, I knew what I had to do, and I knew how to deliver. And I knew how to make my clients happy about not just what the expectation level was, but how do I over-deliver? It's always about over-delivering in professionalism and that white glove service, and just be the foam in the coffee. Don't be the coffee. There's a lot of coffee out there.
Yeah. So, now you're, you wrote your books and it opened up other opportunities. Did you write the books after, right after you left the banking?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I was kind of noodling the idea, and it finally was like, okay, this is a good time to do this. So I wrote my first book, Life on Mars, a 4-season garden. And from that, I did media tours. I went across the country talking about the book. And then the second book was Life on Mars, Creating Casual Luxury. And that was an interior design book. And of course, in every one of my listings, you will find the book somewhere, right? It is somewhere in the house.
Okay.
So it's a little like, where is it? Let's find it, right? But in every listing, my book is present. And it's just a nod to being an authority in both the garden and the design aspect. And if you're buying a house, you want somebody that knows that arena, right?
Of course.
Knows value. And I have the right brain, left brain, because I had the 18 years of finance, having all my licenses and having that part. So I know the numbers, and I know the great style, and I know what you can get away with.
I love that. So I want to talk about, like, you wrote the book. Now you're establishing yourself as a lifestyle expert. And then you ended up in entertainment and being a TV host.
Correct.
Let's talk about that journey, because the underlying theme of your story is you've always been comfortable being in front of people and
Yes.
entertaining and providing value. And obviously, now you're on television.
Correct.
What was that like?
Well, I always had a love for the camera. Very early on, you could look back at some home videos, and I am right front and center, having some kind of drama in front of the camera. So I was always very comfortable, and I was always comfortable as a performer. And of course, having these books and then opening up the multimedia world and going into it was such a big part of my life, because it allowed me to really reach more and more people about my brand, my casual luxury brand. And I remember working for Meredith Corporation in New York, The Better, and I just came on to talk about the book. But then they said, oh, we like them, we'll bring them back, we'll bring them back, we'll bring them back. Then I became a correspondent. And I always had a turnkey studio house. So you can come and I can talk about roses, I could talk about a parterre garden, I could talk about a shed, and you would have all those vignettes available to actually film. So it was very turnkey. And that's where the tag, Audra, I remember, was the host. She said, you're truly America's top lifestyle expert. And I remember that moment in time where I'm like, oh, this is a huge responsibility. Now I'm gonna have to hold up to this. But in truth, it was really always there. She just said it out loud. And it's followed me ever since. So if you Google America's Top Lifestyle Expert, I come up.
I love that.
Me too.
What were some lessons you learned in these multiple transitions?
Well, I think you have to be accountable. You have to be relevant. And you have to make yourself available at all times. My phone rings, someone has to answer it. You have to be there. And with notoriety comes responsibility. And you have to live and breathe your brand. And that to me is extremely comfortable, and it's my wheelhouse. So I feel that it is my duty to not just talk about the great design, but also live and breathe it as well, and to share it. Knowledge is power. So I try to put out there, as you do in social media, and educating people of how do we get this information out in a way that inspires others.
Yes.
To find their true passion, to find what really makes their heart tick is crucial. There's many times I look at people, I'm like, oh, well, I'd really love to do it. Well, what are you doing about it? Oh, well, I have dreams. Dreams are great. Actions are better.
Yeah.
Right? I don't care if just one little step in that ladder, you got to take a step in the right direction each and every time. So that's my crucial learning from everything that I've done. And most importantly, the responsibility about putting it out there for others to learn from and grow.
I love what you said about having an impact. And, one of the things that I always talk about in the show is the role of mentorship and the role of having role models. Who were some role models that you had throughout your respective careers, whether it was in figure skating, whether it was in banking, whether it has been in entertainment, or whether it has even been in real estate we haven't even touched upon yet?
Oh, yeah.
But mentorship is important.
Well, I always have found that I have a great passion for people that do their job and do their job really, really well, right? And that changes, right?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
we evolve, right? When I was in the network, there was always, I admired the professionalism of the executive producers. I admired the talent, right? The ability. And I wanted to emulate and to really become the best of me. And so I take from everyone that inspires me, right? And I take from everyone that is a contributor to my team or what I do. I mean, there's too many to, kind of name, but I'll tell you one thing is that sometimes you idolize somebody or someone, I should say, and you meet them, and you're like, oh, shoot, I wish I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Right? And so I've made it a point not to really say, oh, I'm crazy about this person. I'm crazy about this person. Or I'm not crazy about people. I'm crazy about people's actions. Because that to me speaks so much more. And I always put it out there, don't tell me what you do. Show me what you do. Actions speak louder than words. So that is truly what gets me when I see the act of kindness. When I see someone say hello to someone that's checking them out at a grocery store, and they say, "How are you today?" And they look and we're like, "I'm fine." That act of kindness, that putting it out there, is really what I admire, and that's across the board.
I love what you said there. Where, yeah, there have been so many times where I wouldn't say idolize someone, but definitely deeply admired someone and wanted to emulate them. And having that approach where it's like, I like the way they do this. I like the way this person does this. And, I'm going to borrow these actions or mannerisms or approach and make my version of it. So like, that's awesome. And, now that you have established yourself as the top lifestyle expert, had you already been doing real estate at the same time, or?
It's funny how I got into real estate. My agent called me, and I was doing a project in Westport, and it was just supposed to be a couple episodes of Makeover Project. And I said, "Oh, I'm working on a house right now, design. This will be perfect." So we packaged it up, and we created these original episodes, and then they did so well, they wanted more. So we just kept doing it, right? And in reference to the show itself and the accountability and responsibility of being, this top lifestyle expert, it's content. You got to feed the animal, right? Constantly. So you have to be creative and resourceful. So it was then at that time, someone came to me and said, "Mar, why don't you get your real estate license? Because that way you could be America's top lifestyle expert with a license to sell." And I'm like, oh my God, I love that. Yes, I'm going to do that just so I could have it. It was a great title. So I immediately went to school. I banged it out. I remember I was at the studio at Fox and I'd finish my early assignments, and I still have my IFB in my ear and my jacket. I'm going to these classes, and it's, everyone's in Lululemon and casual. They're just getting up with their coffee, and I've already had 4 hours in me, right? But I went to the classes, wanted to get it done, finished the class on Friday, took the test on Monday. I was done. And I remember at the time, I said, okay, I have my license. I'm really not going to do real estate. I just wanted to have the license, right? And then all of a sudden, the phone started ringing. Being in the private bank business for many years, people say, "Oh, you have your license? Would you tell me what you think of this? Or would you sell this? Or my daughter's looking for a condo." And the phone just started ringing. And it was truly, when you think about my brand, it was the bullseye right in the brand, identifying what I do. Because everything that I do is all about design. It's about your home. It's about casual luxury. It's about how you feel in that space. Take in that I had all these years in banking. So now I have that right brain, left brain, as I mentioned. And now I get to sell these beautiful houses.
Yeah.
I get to design them. I get to stage them. I get to tell people to take down all those curtains and rip up the shag carpeting, and because they'll get more money and they're listening to me and I deliver. So I was in my true bullseye, like, oh my goodness, this is fantastic. So I love that component of it.
That's awesome. And, one thing that I love that you're here because you've witnessed the evolution of all these different industries. Talk to me a little bit about that, how not only real estate, but obviously TV as well. Because you went from being on, networks, and now you host your own show, Life on Mars,
Correct.
in its 5th season.
Right.
that is some serious adaptation to how the industry has been evolving.
It is interesting because I think that's the discipline of being a former banker, because I dissect and say, okay, I'm making this, doing this. How can I do this and have residuals and own it instead of just being the likeness or the product of it? So the show has evolved, and now we're streaming on Amazon Prime, Tubi, Roku. We're in streaming, and streaming now is the new network. I mean, there's awards, there's everything. You know, it's all streaming now. And although I've done, you know, the basic channels as well, IBC, CBS, NBC, you know, HGTV, I've done them all. QVC. I love the fact that now, as the executive producer and the host of my show, I get to really make some long-lasting decisions that are evergreen. We call them evergreen because we want the show to be relevant no matter what decade you're in. Great design is great design. Mm-hmm. So we don't jump into something that is the moment, right? We always go back to my 6 core design principles. And it's relevant, it's forward, and it's attainable, and it's comfortable. You walk into a room and you're like, why does this work? There's a reason for it.
I love that. And you know, like adapting to the change and creating something that's universal is important. I want to talk to you also about that journey and the growth along the way. What were some rude awakenings that you were faced with in whichever respective avenue you were in, where you just hard stop and were like, this isn't what I thought it would be like, or I need to change this in order for me to get to be. There had to have been moments like that.
I have a really great comment about that. I remember early on, to be in this industry, you have to really be able to have someone hate you for people to love you. So I remember my agent, I called my agent and I said, I'm done. God, you know, the review, are you kidding me? They don't even know me. And they're saying such horrible things, right? Online now, we could be a ghost, right? We could say horrible things, and it's like, how do you track it down? Oh, God, you don't know who they are, right? We can hide behind it. And I said to my agent, I'm like, I'm really having a problem with this. I don't think I could really. He said, first, you should never read the comments. And second, you haven't made it until people hate you. And it really made me pause and say, what do you mean? I'm a likable guy. I don't put any negative energy out there. I'm trying to just do my job. I'm trying to do it the best I possibly can. He goes, Mar, you have to understand is that, you know, you are in the world where people are going to criticize. You know who you are. Your team knows who you are. You know what's important. And if someone's having a bad day and they want to write a horrible comment, that's okay. You know, people live out there for just doing just that, right? Mm-hmm. And I did this Homeworthy episode where I gave a tour of my house, and we had like 975 amazing, loving comments. And I responded to every one of them. Then we had the 4, you know, bashers, right?
Yeah.
No comments whatsoever. I put nothing to it, right? So you got to find the rainbow. So I had to learn very early on and redirect and not take it personally. Because if you do your job and you do it really well, people are going to dislike you, no matter what career you're in, right? They're going to be jealous. Jealousy is out there, right? So you have to rise above it.
I love that. And you just touched upon so many different things that I want to talk about. One of them being managing teams.
Oh.
Managing teams and the best strategy to ensuring that you have the right people around you.
Well, you have to find people that are just as passionate about the things you love to really make a great teammate, right? Their work ethic has to be just as powerful. I always say we don't do things part-time. If we're doing something, we're full-time. We're in it. We're in it to win it, right? So we don't take anything on if we can't do it better than anybody else. And that's what we are always working towards. I mean, I get interns for the summer, and I really enjoy that. This is young blood. And I could tell you, I know the ones that are going to make it. I know the ones that aren't going to make it, But it's my job to help show them that it's tough. The world is tough. People aren't kind. You got to get out there. But you also have to know where you want to go in order to get there, right? So having the people around you that lift you up and support you is crucial. Right? Everyone has to be a cheerleader on your team, right?
I love that.
Because sometimes you're having a good day, I'm having a bad day. You're going to cheer me on. I'm having a good day, you're having a bad day, I'm going to be your biggest cheerleader. I'm going to remind you why you're here and all the gifts that you bring to this planet. We call it Life on Mars, right? My whole brand of my television show. And Life on Mars is really about everybody and how they play a role on this great planet Earth that we're on, right? The universe is very, very big. And we're blessed that we can pick and choose the people we want to surround ourselves. When there's hurt and when there's bad behavior, I don't respond. I remember. That's the Taurus in me. I totally never forget.
I'm the same way.
Right? I won't say anything. I will never put anything in writing. I just remember, and I move on.
One of the other things that you spoke about was how you had to filter out the negative comments, and another thing that, in order for you to get to where you were, required a tremendous amount of discipline. Not only physical discipline early on when you were training and you were skating, but the mental acumen of that. I want to talk about how you
I've been tested so many times
to incorporate discipline in your daily habits, but just as a body as a whole.
Well, discipline is something that I feel you either nurture and develop, you discover and want. It has to be somewhere within you for it to be success that comes from the discipline, right? And I always feel that if we make a commitment, the discipline to get it to the finish line is crucial, right? And I always used to tell my employees when I was in my banking days, if you don't see me, you're doing a great job. If you see me every day, you're going to get fired. Because now I have to do your job. And if I'm telling you how to do your job, then you're not doing your job, right? And I'm all about coaching and development. I think that's crucial. But I also think it's very important to understand what you're good at and to know what you're not good at, right? I might be great in many things, but there's certain things I'm horrible at.
Yeah.
And I don't take that on at all. Nope, I'm out of it. I know someone that's very, very good at that, and they're going to be the one that's going to help me when it comes to that department. You surround yourself. You cast your net out wide, right? And then when you reel it in, you want to make sure that you are tracked what's going to complement you and make you a better you, right?
Totally.
And that's how I choose to build every brand and every team with all the right people.
What do you do? Because you're managing a team, a lot of people rely on you. And I'm a big proponent of I can't really help and support others unless I'm taking care of myself. How do you approach self-care? How do you approach the daily habits so that you can be the best you each and every day for your team?
Well, I think a perfect example is I started this, I think I'm going on year 5, celebrating Marfest. Okay, so my birthday's in April. And it's on the 22nd, it's next week, right? And several years ago, I said, instead of having a birthday, it should be a fest, right? And I think everyone should take this in because it's not about getting a gift every day. It's not about, doing these crazy things every day. That's not what the fest is about. The fest is about really identifying just how great it really is to be here every day. That lunch, that special touch, being here with you today. This is part of my
I love
fest,
that.
right?
I love that.
This is all good stuff. And to find the rainbow every day. And then when it comes to that celebration, it's really, okay, it's a birthday, right? And I am in control of my destiny. I have a big birthday coming up. So I've determined that I said, okay, for this birthday, it's basically I'm marrying myself, right? Because I'm a single guy, I'm throwing my own party, and I'm really selecting the core people that have really made my life what it is today. And that is a fest. That's a celebration, but it's my birthday, but the fest is about everyone that comes together. So that is what I call self-care, because I care for myself first to make it a priority. And if you can't have yourself as a priority, you can't help others, right? They say on the plane, put the life preserver on yourself before assisting others, right?
Yep.
You have to take care of yourself so you could be the best you could be. And sometimes when you're a caretaker, it's very easy to, oh God, I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to do this. But you have to make time for yourself in order to be a better caretaker. You have to make time for yourself in order to be a better teammate, right? You have to take care of time for yourself in order to be a really great salesperson, right?
Yeah. How much do you attribute that mindset and that prioritizing yourself to your early days when you couldn't, or when you were in a position where you had to put other people first? And even, in your relationship eventually becoming a widower, you said that you were very much prioritizing caretaking of others.
It's huge. And I think, it was very early on I discovered that if I don't put myself forward, especially early on, I remember as a youngster, if I don't take on this skating, if I don't do something for myself, I'm not going to be good for anybody else. So I think it came from very early on trying to understand that I have some qualities, and I'm gonna run with those qualities, and I'm gonna make myself aware that, okay, this might not be my forte here, but this is, and pay attention to that. A lot of times we go through life and things present itself and we missed it. It comes back and, oh, we missed it again. And then also the third time around, we're like, God, why am I seeing that over and over again, right? And when I think back over my career, I've always loved homes. I remember when I was like 12, I would look at, the for sales, right? I made a little fort tree house and I wallpapered it,
Really?
and it was all scrap.
awesome.
And, I cut out a window, I remember, because I wanted to have a glass window. I mean, I was always very, very aware of my environment. I used to play this game in my bedroom called Tornado, where I would just take everything apart, throw it around like a tornado happened.
Oh, parents must love that.
Yeah. They couldn't care less. I was out of their hair. But then I went back in the room like, oh, how can I redo this now in a better way? Well, I'm challenged with that every day for the makeover show. When I walk into someone's home and I say, okay, we have to get it ready for on the market. We have to stage it. I got to go to that warehouse and I have to pick all the pieces. And I have to do it and know that, okay, this is what it's going to look like. So I think it was very early on I discovered that, I needed to be aware of myself and I needed to identify what I love. And it was an escape, and I think it truly protected me as well.
Yeah. I love how you just so firmly live in your purpose and live in your brand. And, a lot of my viewers, they are folks who are trying to establish their own personal brands, young entrepreneurs. What 3 pieces of advice would you give to someone who is building a personal brand?
First of all, there is not one brand that is not connected to one person. So you have to own that you are the brand. So someone says, oh, here's my brand. what the heck does that have to do with you? Oh, it's what no, you have to own it. You have to be part of the brand in order to make it a successful brand. It has to be a part of you, right? And the second thing is that you have to understand what your brand means and how you're putting it out there for other people to perceive how that brand is being read, right? What does it mean to you and what does it mean to others when they see it? And most importantly, you have to be consistent. I see this all the time. Mary Johnson on Facebook, and then she's Johnson Mary on Instagram, and she's House and Garden on Pinterest. Inconsistency. So you have to be consistent. You Google Mar Jennings, prepare yourself.
I did.
It's an all-nighter. So it's consistent. It's out there. You lead by it, right? So you have to make sure that consistency is important. And the third tip I would definitely say is that you can't be everything. You have to be the best that you could be, and then you have to trust others to be that extension of what you're missing, right? I have a head writer for my show. Yes, I like to write. I've written 2 books, but I can't do what he does. I have an executive producer. I have videographers. I have salespeople. I have movers. I mean, I've been known to move a couple of things, but I'm not moving that, sectional. You need people. So you have to be able to understand that your team, part of your brand is understanding what you're good at and what you need help with, right? And I always say this because it is crucial to build the brand as a process, not an overnighter. Once you understand what it is, do your homework, find the niche that you do that's very, very different. Mine was that I was a performer. I had a multimedia platform. I loved homes. I could design homes. I could stage homes, and I could market. I really enjoy the marketing component of it, and the marketing is me. That's a part of me, and that is what I love doing. Whether it be a huge lecture of 500 people, I'm standing there as the man, the brand, the passion, and the inspiration.
I love that. That's such a great answer. Those are such important things that people need to adopt in order for them to really build. And one of the things that I think that a lot of people struggle with is the instant gratification and needing it now. And we use social media as a great way to get ourselves out there, but it also can be a place where we are comparing ourselves to others and, feeling the poor me or the why not me.
Right.
Talk a little bit about that and how you balance that.
Well, it's interesting because I always Google people, right? It's just what I do. I have this buyer. Let me Google them, right? We're an open book now.
Yeah.
If it's out on the internet, you can find it, right? The good, the bad, whatever, it's out there. So you have to be very aware that you're feeding that social media platform. And I remember, I think it was like 15 years ago, reading an article in the New York Times, and it said if you don't have a social media or a website platform, you won't exist in 15 years, right? And I remember it's like, I need a website? I'm like, okay, landing page. Okay. I've had like 14 evolutions of my website, right? But it's always been Mar Jennings, right? And it's just so important that you have your brand identity, you understand where you're at, you understand where you're going, as I mentioned, but most importantly is that, these steps in our life, every goal is set, it's calculated, and it really is truly, if you're going to use social media platform, you have to make sure you're using it for the right reason. Yes, I love the fact that you had your 3-year-old's birthday party. That's fabulous. Use that photo and say, we're marketing for tomorrow's future. This person's going to buy a house for me. Use it as a way to help you build your brand and identity. Put it out there, and you have to put it out there, and you have to be consistent, right? It's a tool, and if you're not utilizing it, you're missing out, and you're kind of like working with just one arm, right? You need all the tools that are available for you.
I love that. And obviously with real estate, like, it is a super valuable tool. And being in sales, you're in the people industry. You've always been in the people industry, but I think that real estate is a very different animal when it comes to people, because you're showing them where they're going to sleep at night. You're showing them where they're going to shower. You're showing them where their children are going to grow up. Establishing that emotional connection with buyers is something that I think is super important, that because we're constantly getting sold, whether it's on social media, whether you're walking down the street. The intimacy of sales, I think, is really important to understand.
That connection.
Talk to me about your process and just your approach, because I know it's second to none.
Yeah. So a lot of realtors hate me because of this, but I do not allow any lock boxes for any of my listings. That was one thing that if I was going to get into this business, I was going to do it differently than anybody else. So you want to see one of my listings, you have to make an appointment, and I have to be there, because walls can't talk. I can. And I can tell you about the history of the house. I can tell you all the details. I can answer any questions, but it is a guided tour. Even for our open houses, you have to wait. You can't just wander in and take a look at the house. You have to wait. And we have protocols that we set up where we have multiple lifestyle realtors. That's what my team of realtors are called, that give you the tour, right? So there's a queue. The moment we're done, we'll go to the next person. Sometimes you might need to wait, but it's worth the wait, right? And the reason why we do that is because we want to have a voice in the industry. We want to control the tours. We want to make highlights of what's important for people to know. And we want to be available. And we want to establish what you just said, a relationship and rapport with the real estate agent, with the potential buyer. We want to establish, and we want to know. And that's harder. A lot of realtors don't do that. But that's the foundation of how we do it, and we do it very differently.
I love that.
As you said, it's about getting in front of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you see me. Hi, how do you do? I'm Mar. I'm going to give you a tour. Oh, I know you. I'm like, oh, okay, great, thank you. And to the extent that we do it so well that other realtors sometimes are taken back because we greet them at the house, we introduce ourselves, and I can't tell which one's the realtor and which one's the potential buyer, because they're all in sweats. Right?
Yeah.
So I think
funny.
Casual Fridays ruined it for society, right? Because people didn't know what casual was.
Yeah.
And then we had COVID and people were in their pajamas, right? And that's all over, thank goodness. And now we're going back into the workforce. And you really have to dress for success. I did not make that term up. There's a reason for it. You have to represent your best self in order to build your brand. People want to remember you.
Absolutely. And I love that. I love that approach. The personally curate each experience, each showing, each tour, and having a voice rather than them just walking in and creating their own judgments and whatnot, which may be inaccurate.
Unattended.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this story, and it's a true story. When I bought my house, I remember, I went into the real estate agency, and she was sitting on the desk, the receptionist, and I walk in, and I was a young guy when I came in, and she's like eating a sandwich. And I walk in, and I said, "Excuse me, I like to look at a house." She looks at me, "Now?" And I'm like, "Yes." Now, I already walked through the house. I already saw the house. I went in there. I just needed someone to show it to me so I can make an offer on it.
Yeah.
But she sized me up, and she goes, "Now?" And I said, "Yes." And then she turns on, she goes, "Kathy!" And Kathy, and then she sees me, and she kind of like, like I deflated her. And she goes, "You want to see a house?" And I said, "Yes." She goes, "Are you pre-qualified?" And I said, "Yes." "What's the house?" And I told her the house. She goes, "That's a new house." I mean, she was giving me every reason to walk out, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to take this to the finish line. And then I said, "Yeah, I know the house." And he goes, "Do you want me to drive you?" And I'm like, No, I'll meet you there." So I go to the house, which I've already been in the house, and I walk into the living room and I look at her and I said, "Okay, I'll take it." And a switch went off. "Oh, you don't want this house. Let me show you another house." Blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden, she became her best self. She didn't start with her best self. And I remember that as such a horrible experience. And I said to myself, I will never be that person. I will never let anyone on my team be that person. And it was just such a horrible experience. And I remember because I have looked to see if this person's still doing real estate, and she's not. Wonder why. but I remember just how horrible that was. So kind of going back, I got into it to do it differently, and I make sure that all those protocols and all the things that we do is very high touch, right? Very personalized, very white glove. And whether we're staging, whether we're showing the house, it's just an elevated experience. Because I think if you're going to be the best, I mentioned, you have to be the foam in the coffee, not the coffee. You got to rise to the top.
Yeah. I
Rise
love
to the
that.
top. So much so that I'm a branding guy.
Did you buy that house?
Oh, yeah, I bought it. And
Nice.
I've been at this house for 28 years.
Okay.
So I did buy the house,
Yeah.
and she made money, and she was horrible, but nevertheless, it all worked out. But I'll tell you, to do something is to identify how it's done and how can you see that process differently and better in your eyes, right? Mm-hmm. We don't kill a tree. We use a QR code. And sometimes you get the real estate agent come, "Do you have a program or a brochure?" And I'm like, "No, I'm sorry, we won't kill a tree. We have a QR code, and all that information is right on the QR code." Okay. Clients love it. Boop, 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 boop. They
Boom,
bring
done,
it up,
yeah.
right? And then for the longest time, we were burning a candle, and everyone says, "Oh, what a beautiful candle, what a beautiful candle, what a beautiful candle." And I was like, "Oh, that candle, blah, blah," and I was dropping the name. And finally, I went back to my team. We were having a meeting. I'm like, I have to create my own candle. And they're like, "Why do you want a candle? You want to go in?" I'm like, "Yeah, because I should be burning my own candles."
Yeah.
So now I have, I think, 8, 9 different candles, different fragrances, all natural, paraffin-free. And I burn my own candles. And people say, "Oh, what a beautiful candle." Well, the QR code's right there.
Feel
And
free to
people
buy
are
'em.
buying the candles. They might not buy the house, but they're buying the candle.
Hey.
But
I love
they're taking a little something with them, right? That is part of my brand. It's the Mar Jennings candle. And they're all influenced based upon my garden, my life. And people love them. And now we just sell them online, and it's fantastic. But again, another simple little detail, and that's really what I want to underscore. It was a little detail that I took for myself and said, it's going to be a branding opportunity.
That's amazing.
I don't
That's
do
so
pens.
amazing.
I don't do, it's like, right.
The candle, it's more significant because also they put it in on their coffee table. They put it in on their island, and they have visitors over.
And they tell 2 friends.
Exactly.
And they tell 2 friends, and
Yeah.
so on and so on. And next thing you know, it's like, "Oh, I was at my friend's house, and she had your parterre garden candle, and I need it." Or a prolific lilac. I love lilacs. And it's the first candle that doesn't make me cry. It's first candle. And that's because there's no paraffin. It's an all-natural essential oil candle.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm
A little promo we embedded here for
little
you.
plug there. Operators are standing by.
That's amazing. I want to talk about purpose.
Yes.
You live very purposely and with a lot of intention and unapologetically yourself. What advice would you give to anyone who's struggling to find purpose in their life?
I was probably, one of those people at one time. I knew I had some skill set, but what was really my line in the sand? How do I want to be remembered? And what's my purpose, right? And I think the best way you can find your purpose is to first, you gotta really take a step back and you have to acknowledge who you are and what do you really want to be remembered for, right? We can have great careers, but in the end, the career's over. What did you leave back? What's your global footprint when it's all said and done? And once you realize what that print is, then you can kind of drill down and say, okay, so how do I create a purpose that drives me to that goal, right? For me, I wanted a legacy, right? I wrote my books as a love note to my home, right? Because both of them were inspired by my home. I became a widower in my home. I shared the garden with the people that I love that are here today, that are no longer here as well. So those memories are all part of the badge of honor that I carry. And when it's all said and done, my legacy is going to be certainly, hopefully, a brand that lives on, services that we provide that are elevated, product, because I have the candle line. We're going to branch out into other soaps and room sprays and all other aspects of it. To be able to have that be, I was here, I made a difference, I left things better than I found them. I guess that's what I'm trying to get to. Just leave the world a better place than you found it. And that can mean how you raise your kids. It could mean about your career. It could mean a great deal of how you really take that to yourself and say, when it's all said and done, and this is where I'm going to try to keep it together to deliver this. When you witness someone leaving this world, what they take with them is truly what they experience with you, and nothing else. But what they leave behind is their purpose and what they really did and changed in your life, right? So I carry that from my past and I carry it into my future. And when things happen, I always say, you know what? We'll find a way. We'll make it work out. Try to find the rainbow, find your purpose, and find the rainbow every day.
I think that was beautiful.
Thank you, and I kept it together.
And I appreciate that. That was touching. And when you think about the word purpose, I mean, you closed it with such a powerful way that it kind of answered the question that I was going to ask next. But I'm really, really grateful that you're here, and I'm really grateful that I was able to have this conversation, and because I've learned so much about just how to approach on a micro and a macro level when it comes to my brand and the vision that I have for it. I'd love for you to share with my audience what you have coming up, and other than Marfest, but we could definitely talk about
Very
Marfest.
exclusive
But
Marfest. Yes.
I think it's really important because I think you inspire a lot of people. And go ahead.
Well, Adam, I appreciate that and thank you. And it's always a pleasure to put out a message that is positive, to put out a message of hope, to put out a message that you're not alone, that people love you. There will always be someone that loves you, right? And you have to acknowledge that and know who those people are. I don't need 10,000 people to love me, right? I love myself. You have to love yourself. And by loving yourself, you allow other people. And I have a core group of people that are very, very close and dear to me. I value everything they ever say about what I do, how am I doing it, and that I cherish. And those are relationships that you really cultivate over the decades. As you get a little older, you get a little wiser, and you realize, you know what? This is where I need to be, right? Mm-hmm. But in reference to, we're very philanthropic at Mar Jennings. And we try to put out there as much encouragement, and support. So we are currently working on a one-man show for fourth quarter that is truly, it's called Growing Up Third. And being the third, the older brother, thousands of photographs. Middle brother, couple albums. When it came to my photo album, there were 3 photos, and they all look like I'm in an orphanage. Because
Sorry, funny,
I got all the hand-me-downs. So the crib was just cracked, the lead paint, I was probably eating it. Who knows? No one cared, right? My brother, when are you coming back, right? When it was... No one even asked when I was coming back. They didn't care. He's gone, right? So it's a true story of the evolution of Mar Jennings, the sadness, the journey. My brothers very early on threw me in a Goodwill donation bin when I was about 9 years old, and they told my mom we donated him. And I remember that like it was yesterday, what that felt like to be in that Goodwill and being donated. Now, they were clearly kidding, right? But they were kids. But I still remember what that felt like, right?
Of course.
And how well, first of all, my mother scrubbed me for 3 days. I mean, there wasn't one part of me that wasn't raw. I mean, she just went at it, right? But you have these different moments in time, and when you can talk about them as an adult and you can find the laughter and the humor behind it, I think that's part of the healing process.
Absolutely.
So this one-man show, Growing Up Third, you will laugh, you will cry, but most importantly, you will experience a journey of inspiration and commitment to finding the best self. So that would be in fourth quarter. I'll be doing that. We're doing exciting things with season 5. We're launching that in fourth quarter. The Life on Mars, the home makeover show on Amazon Prime, Tubi, and Roku. That 5th season is called Go Big and Go Home. We partnered with Green Day Construction, Carlos Alvarez, and Z, his wife, who is a gift of so much. She's this big and she explodes with creativity and beauty and passion. And Carlos just builds it and sees the vision. And I get to sell the properties. So we document it for the show, and then we sell the property. And the bow for the show is that we sold the property. So that season 5 is coming up in fourth quarter around September. So we're constantly looking at great things to do that are in our global footprint, but we're also very aware that sometimes the need might be that I go somewhere else outside of the state, whether it be Minneapolis, whether it be California, and we're just open to all that. So it's a wonderful time to be creative. It's a wonderful time to acknowledge how important our spaces are after COVID. And I think as we continue through this year, and the mission is very much the same, is that we got to find the beauty within our surroundings and ourselves before we can extend that out to everyone else. So the one-man show will kind of certainly underscore and tell a funny story. There's a story about my mom, my brothers. It was hard to put together. My head writer is kind of working it out, and he goes, "Do you really want to say this?" I'm like, "But isn't it funny?" And he goes, "Yeah, but wow." So I'm excited about it. I'm really thrilled about it. And we're making 100% of the ticket sales will be donated to a charity. And we're finalizing that charity now. So that's my year in a review.
There you go. And you could obviously reach Mar at marjennings.com and buy a house from him. Why not?
Sell a house from me.
Buy a house, have him design your house.
Right,
whatever you need. Whatever you need him
we
for.
do it all, and we love it.
I am so grateful to have you.
Adam, my pleasure.
#1 lifestyle expert on
America's
the globe.
top. Right?
America's top.
Right?
I said on the globe.
On the globe. So I appreciate that. Wow, we're really expanding. We have so many. The show has been so filmed, and once we get to 100 episodes, we've just been picked up for 2 more seasons. They start dubbing you in different languages.
Nice.
So I'm so excited about that part.
Love that.
Yeah. So we got to get to that 100 episode.
There we go. And for those of you who haven't yet, subscribe, like, review, follow Mar, keep track of what this guy's doing, because it sounds like fourth quarter we're going to really be able to peel back the layer and see Mar and hear his story in even more depth. So I'm grateful to have you here, and I look forward to building on this friendship.
Thank you.
Thank you.